African Americans are the most influential people, like group of people that ever lived on the planet Earth. Unlike if the diaspora can come in and invest in infrastructural conditions that allow the human capital that you guys are educating to now participate in the economy, they can actualize their self-development.
I don't see the diaspora and Africans as two separate things. I don't want to see that. I don't have that approach. I don't want to have
Mm.
that approach. Well, what does that mean for me? Am I not African?
They will stop you guys so much to a point where it's even easy to brainwash a lot of Americans to not think as Africa as this. They think Africa as this jungle, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and not a prosperity opportunity.
Actually, in Congo now, still to this day, there's Congolese people that think that King Leopold brought civilization to Africa.
This is the Mooncast.
See you, Space Cowboy.
Where do you see, because I feel like I understand your point and it makes absolute sense. What about the trump card of the diaspora, like me, right?
Mhm.
So
Okay,
I
what do you
feel
mean?
like I feel like Africans are not leveraging the diaspora as much as they should, right? Because a lot of the diaspora, they maybe come from a place of understanding. They can link the two, right? Because they could get on the ground, see how it is here, they could compare, and then they can figure out solutions to solve. And they have more of a long-term approach, or they can have more of a long-term mindset and approach, right, to doing things. So do you think that one of the trump cards or variables that we're missing when it comes to the rebuild of Africa is not being able to link with the diaspora, who just the African American community alone has about $3 trillion of working capital, which would rank them in the top 11 countries in the world in terms of GDP per capita, right?
That
So
is actually, oh no, no, I love this topic because I've been
yeah,
waiting to talk about this for. Okay, I think first I feel like the diaspora, our diaspora brothers, lack an fundamental understanding of Africans here. Same way as Africans, we lack the conditions of like Africans outside of to Africa.
yeah,
We really do not empathize together because
yeah,
we don't know our conditions, and
yeah,
this is something we take lightly, but it's very strong in terms of like even accepting each other. There's like we clash a lot. If you've noticed this, we clash a lot together. Africans in the continent, outside the continent, there's a huge divide, and I think the unity for diaspora people and Africans here is one of the things that, if you look go back to Marcus Garvey, his theories, I'm sure you're familiar with Marcus Garvey and
of
the
course,
idea of nationalizing Africa as a nation, African
yeah,
nationalism. I
yeah,
think that was one of the most craziest like innovative ideas that ever proposed to mankind that never came to fruition, because that ideology was going to save Africa, like all over the world. Having a nation that they can come together and identify as, and then use it to grow their influence and capital, more like leverage capital influence, is the ideas that we need to go back to. The ideas currently for black nationalism will fail because globalization divides us more than bringing us together. Globalization is fundamentally killing that collaboration, because it's like, no, 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 don't just collaborate with blacks, do it with everybody. While the rest of the world is like, no, 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 we're Europeans, we're Americans, we're Chinese, we're Asians. But Africans, no. We're Tanzanians, we're Kenyans, we're Ugandans. We're like, but even the name, look at Tanzania, Uganda. Like we're all like share the last names, we share the same thing, but we have this imaginary borders even between ourselves in the continent. So what makes you think we'll have an understanding of someone on another continent? If we can unite in in the continent, we will not understand the unity of someone else outside the continent. That's one. The second thing is the quality of life in Africa is very much still very poor to accommodate. the quality of life for most people in the diaspora, in a sense, for them to really reap the benefit of, hey, I can see myself moving to Africa. Yeah, you can move to Africa, but are you ready for the cultural difference? Are you ready for the ignorance that you find? Are you ready for the like lack of education and misinformation and the cultural clash, the tribalism, the all the things that we have? Because once you're ready and you have that empathy and awareness, you can inspire your local brothers here to adhere to other values. The same way we can inspire you to look at other routes of living, you know? Now,
Yeah.
I think the diaspora, especially in America, the Black Americans, they are very misinformed about what African culture is, and they're usually in shock when they get here. They'll have two experiences. They'll either find a loving and a close community that can welcome them, or they'll find a lot of like mismatch and not like ideology clash. Because like I thought you guys will accept me, but then I feel like you guys are giving me the Muzungu price, and I feel like not welcomed. I feel like or you find somebody who
Yeah.
has like, oh my god, I've never been more happier than being here. So this is because the conditions for development in Africa should be done by Africans. We cannot rely on anybody to come and help us on developing. You guys can invest in our development, but you cannot control how we develop. White people are doing that already. And they have spent millions and billions of dollars, infrastructural dollars, to make sure you guys don't do it because they know the influence African Americans have. African Americans are the most influential people, like group of people that ever lived on the planet Earth. We can agree
Yeah.
on this. From
Yeah. Yeah.
culture
Yeah.
to politics
Cultural
to everything,
powerhouse. Yeah. Yeah.
everything. But
Yeah.
they are never influential when it comes to development at the fundamental level of infrastructure. So
Yeah.
when you guys realize the power that you have and the power you can leverage here, it needs wisdom of the highest tenacity. And I come back to Marcus Garvey, Bob Marley, and Haile Selassie. I know we see
Yeah.
these guys, we associate them with smoking weed and like at hookah lounges and Rastafarianism. But when people realize the fundamental reason of what a Rastafari really means, and I embody that ideology for Africans, we can see that collaboration happening. But modern ideologies will always favor capitalism, while Africans naturally we're not capitalistic people. We are in a capitalistic system. Now we need to understand, and I think this is where the African Americans diaspora can come and help us understand the capitalistic world, and then we show you guys the holistic communal version of it, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. Yeah.
your
Yeah.
capital with our socialism mindset mixed together, that's the liquidity pool leverage that we need. So the
Exactly.
liquidity, you see, but this it sounds simple. It sounds easy to say it out loud, but in
Yeah.
practice, the mismatch of that, once we unlock it, I think we'll have something truly, truly incredible that can give us that leverage that we're looking for. But
Yes.
you gotta remember, you guys grew up in a very, very capitalistic, like extractive system. Now,
Yes.
are you
This
guys
this
gonna
is true.
invest or
Yeah, or try to exploit. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Here's the nuance. I think one good thing about me is I understand both sides because I grew up in America, but
mm,
I have Nigerian parents, right?
okay,
So
yeah,
I'm and I've traveled around the entire world, right? So I think I'm the perfect type of prototype to help to bridge this diaspora, right? And this is what part of the thing that I'm planning to do. You know, we have some plans with this Web3 Academy in the long term, right? To help to
man,
bridge this too. And it's great because I'm able to connect with people from the diaspora because I understand the cultural of how they think, and then I'm able to connect with people on the ground in Africa because I understand culturally how they think. And I've lived in very, very egregious conditions in poverty in the States, and even worse in Afghanistan. I was also a war veteran too, as well. So
wow,
I'm such the perfect prototype
you was
for
super
that
exposed,
bridge.
bro. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. I realize that. I realize I'm like literally the unique person that actually I understand both sides. I get, and I'm also a communication expert. So it's
mm,
like
how do
I'm
you?
literally the perfect. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, a bit of. I feel like people like you are the ones who need to catch that bull run. Make that 10x on your trade and then come invest, because then you have a fresh perspective. Not like Malone, these guys who make 200 million go blow it on the club. I'm like,
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
examples.
Yeah,
But no, no, I
yeah. I
totally
mean,
hear
I'm
you.
I'm already yeah I'm already investing on the continent, and I'm bringing other African Americans on the continent. There's a couple that I want to meet. I can't speak on it right now, but they're multimillionaires, and they want to come to invest on the continent. So I'm becoming that bridge to help them understand what Africa is and what Africa can be and where the potential is. And it takes a certain entrepreneurial aspect. That's why I tell you, I think I have the perfect array of skill sets and experience to dissect Africa and the diaspora and bridge them together. But how many people are like me? I don't think there are that many that really and I remember I understand macroeconomics, I understand
Mm.
finance, I understand geopolitics, I understand history. There's a lot of nuance you have to understand to really be able to remove your mindset and shift it in the way of thinking, right? To be able to, like, from an African American perspective, to understand Africa, right?
This is so true. I like how you said it.
Yeah.
You need those sources, because otherwise you will just come with a very limited view, and then you miss the mark. Something that was
Yeah.
supposed to be so beautiful could become very toxic and dangerous as well, and you could feel
Yes.
unwelcome, feel like lost a bit, or you could be
Yes.
opportunistic. That's why when you said something earlier about entrepreneurs are the ones should be leading, I agree with you, but I also disagree, because uh sometimes business does not have a lot of wisdom. It has a lot of like you need to have tenacity and ready to pounce, you know but
Yeah.
leadership sometimes needs to be able, okay, am I willing to take this loss for the greater good? Now, as an entrepreneur, you need to have, I'm going to take this by all means necessary, so
Yeah.
that wisdom rooted in understanding, okay, what other fundamental value apart from just gains do I need to do? Because an L could be the wisest thing to take than a W everywhere every time, probability of loss and win. Now, I like what you say, also being the bridge, understanding all these facets to have a well rooted understanding that's not driven by your own views, but more like what is actually needed right now. What
Yeah.
is the sentiment
Holistic
that we
approach.
wish? 100%.
You,
And you see,
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say on that holistic approach, I really hate this SDGs, whatever, because
Yeah.
sometimes they undermine our ability to, like, you look at some of these sustainable development goals, African cultures that's rebranded. I'm like, we
Yes.
used to do this. This is all this. You guys took our culture away in terms of making us consumers, and then now
Yeah.
the world is going to shit. You're selling it back to us as this way of saving the world, like buying things from your local shop. That's how I grew up, getting source food from my neighbor, bro. Every time it rained, we have like a little farm outside our
Yeah.
homes, like we get food from, and then we buy the rest, the non-essentials,
Yeah.
but I think with consumerism and how development happens, the world becoming a village, we forget that, hey, this comes with so many other things that we're maybe not ready for. But how are we addressing these things in a way that does not negate these things' importance, but adds value to them? You see?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is where the wisdom comes in. Like, I think even with machine learning and advances in technology, are we really thinking about how wise are some of these choices that we're making? And then
Yeah.
are we ready to sacrifice them for the greater good? Like, I
Yeah.
would say Africa is not ready for certain investments, because it comes at a cost of leaving a lot of them behind that will make them dependent always. For example, the quality of our education is so, so, so primitive for a lot of our people to participate in the global economy. This is true. Like,
You think it's just Africa, bro? Again, this again where I come and bring that perspective, because I've studied
uh,
abroad, but then I also understand the nuance here in in the educational system here. It's all trash. Imagine 10xing your earnings capacity to 100K per year while working remotely at the comfort of your own home. We are in the exponential growth phase of technological advancements. That means AI, AR, VR, robotics, and of course, Web3 technologies taking over the job market.
At HeliCode Academy, we train students on Web3 hard skills and link them to employment in the job market. Find out more at helicode.xyz. And as always, see you, Space Cowboy.
So
It's all
so
trash.
I'll give you a scenario. I went to school in America. I went for my high school and senior year and junior year in my uni in the States. um
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing. I remember like when I was doing my exams here for like my year 10. We have to do like chemistry, physics, and we have to do these experiments, and I could
Yeah.
solve a lot of the problems without ever touching a Bunsen burner or a test tube or any of them. Like if you show me a chemistry equation, I could have solved it without ever doing the experiment, because that's how I was
Yeah.
taught here. And when I was in the States, I did the AP chemistry and AP calculus. And a lot of my teachers were surprised, like, how can you solve these problems without ever touching the experiments? And I'm like, that's how I was taught, because our school did not have a lab. So
Yeah.
I had to know what it meant and like, what it really is. But then so a kid there who did not know how to do it, but they had to explain with these things. Like you were given an ability, you have resources to help you learn with. We learn a lot of things by theory. Like
Yeah.
you're taught computers sharing it with your deskmate, while a kid has one at home. So the problem with American and Western education, it's really not the institution, it's the how do you say it in English? The upbringing and the attitude they put in their children. So you guys misinterpret the lack of education institutions, not because they lack a lot of, not all of them. I'm sure there's some parts in America where the education system is really shit. But when
Hmm.
you put it on a grander scheme of things, your resources for education are way more robust. That if you have good parenting, your kids will have a better chance. So sometimes it's the cultural decline and the deterioration of moral values that are translating into education system, not the education system itself failing you. We have
Okay.
an education. Yeah,
Hear me.
I'll
Let me
hear you
just
out.
cut you off. Yeah. Yeah. Let me,
Go ahead.
because when I think about education, I think about, can I apply this into the modern landscape of society today, right? So if we look at marketing, for instance, let's just make a simple vertical, right? In the States,
Yeah,
it's behind. You think they're teaching you about how to set up a podcast? Do you think that they're teaching you about TikTok ads? Do you think they're teaching you about YouTube ads? Do you think they're teaching you about how to set up a YouTube channel? Do you think that they're teaching you about how to make YouTube shorts or TikToks, right? They're not teaching you
yeah.
any of those things. What they're teaching you are product, price, place, and promotion, but they're not teaching you how to leverage that into today's society of the exponential growth phase of technological advancement. You know who is? Me,
Mm.
right? The people who are
Yeah,
experienced that are in the space that are putting out value for free for people to go ahead and digest. So I think that me partnering with Stanford helped me also look at that and see that they're behind. All of these guys are behind, bro. Even down
yeah.
to even down to Wall Street. Wall Street is just now
Okay,
getting into the blockchain space, right?
okay,
They're way
okay. So
behind.
no, no, no. I mean, okay, you're looking at one facet of it, right? And most of
Okay.
the things you're mentioning, they're quite new as well, you know? Like we didn't think a lot of these things would be phenomenal in 2006, 2008. And we know when it comes to education, these are one of the slowest institutions to adapt to change, because the fundamental needs of like knowledge in the world, most of the world, is still on essentials. These are non-essential skills that are they're becoming beneficial because majority of us are getting globalized. We'll have devices on our phone, so being a creator is becoming something sustainable for yourself. But then you also got to understand that's also a bursting bubble. At the same time, when we have a lot of creators, it becomes about personality and all these other things. But I do agree with you; they are behind in those essence. But then you cannot misregard the fact that the investment done in the infrastructure for knowledge, availability of good quality knowledge in America is way more advanced than what Africa is investing in terms of knowledge, where we need that essential knowledge way more. I'll give you an example. As an African, I've owned, this is probably my seventh phone right now. But you see, I asked this to a lot of my friends, like, how many phones have you had so far since you had your first phone? Some of them would be like maybe 10, 25. Like each person has had more than 5 devices before they die. But
Yeah.
there's no place in Africa where we can manufacture our own phones, even assemble. You see? Now, having this knowledge even available in our education system for essential things, roads, nowhere in Africa they will teach you. Even like I was doing a project in a coastal city in Dar es Salaam. You know they don't teach us how to make boats. There's no university in Tanzania that will teach you how to make a boat. Even but you
Yeah.
go you go to like a local like beach, you find some guys cutting down trees, cutting wood, and shaping it and
Yeah.
creating a boat, a simple boat, like like
Yeah.
I don't know the English name, but we call it Ngalawa
Fisherman
in
boat.
Swahili,
Fisherman boat.
fisherman boat.
Canal.
But
Canal boat. Yeah.
now you see, can we teach this in like in an area? What we need to do is identify what this area has to offer. Like I mean, Dodoma, this it's very known for carving a lot of grapes. It's a natural thing that grows here. Grapes, it's a semi desert. There's resources here, but none of the schools here teach you how to extract the value here. There's a kid somewhere in Germany right now that knows more about the minerals that are here than I do.
Yes,
You
but
see now,
why is that, right? That's partly
because
due to the fact that we're still colonized, right? We need
no,
to
no, no, not
decolonize
all.
our education system, and we need to then prioritize what is on the ground in our terrain and how to leverage that to be able to facilitate products and services.
100%. Now, how do we do this from that level? Now, this is the point where we gotta reach a point where we can't blame colonizers to this day. So, because we can teach people how to make TikTok videos, we can teach people
Yeah,
how to do all these things that you mentioned, but the essential
correct.
things we blame it on institutions that brainwashed us 60, 70 years ago. So
That's why the
we can,
technology bypasses the institution.
but
So
then
that's why,
what?
again,
How do we
why I'm
access
building a
this?
school with the
No, no,
internet.
no. I'm with you, but then what is the infrastructure for the internet? Because yeah, I agree with you because you can accommodate a few people and then plant a seed on them that they can plant on other people. So I think another thing you can add on your way you teach people is like, hey, like teach one each one, like Ubuntu ideology. I think these things are very essential for Africa's development. We negate them because we think we're exposed, bro. You are a very exposed person. Now, this exposure, if it lacks the grounding, it might make you feel like everybody has the same opportunity as me, and this is the way the world is going. You should know these things, but you gotta understand the reality of the world is not like that. Like I notice sometimes when I talk to people around me and I get super passionate, they're like, "Yeah, bro, that's too much, man. Let's just go. Like, let's talk about something else." It's not because it's that the truth becomes so unbearable. We hold on to our pride because that's the only thing we
Yeah.
can control. Now, our pride is like, "Hey, man, I'm a good. I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna fight." But then essentially is, bro, you can't fight. You don't have the tools to fight. You need a different additional arsenal. Now, our job and what you're doing, this is why I really applaud what you guys are doing is you are giving people the ability to add another arsenal in their bag so when they need to survive they have an additional knowledge like hey I know smart contracts, I can code in Rust, I can now leverage this new technologies that come in, not just the ones I have now. How many people are fundamentally thinking about this from that level? And not only that, are you planting a seed in these people to like, okay, you have this knowledge, don't let it die with you. Because sometimes one other thing I notice, knowledge without an ability to exercise or opportunities like you mentioned can become crippling. Because now I'm a cyborg or supercharged and I know what I can do, but I don't have a software update. I'm just sitting there like, man, I can't connect to the internet. You see? So I have all this knowledge, but I don't have a computer. Because to get a MacBook, it takes me $2,000 back. I can't even get a MacBook, you know? So, but let's say even an entry level PC, you know? So, you find a job requires this, but then the person doesn't have he has the knowledge, he has the ability, but they can't participate. So we need to also invest in the conditions that allow people to participate. This is why I'm with you so much on like if the diaspora can come in and invest in infrastructural conditions that allow the human capital that you guys are educating to now participate in the economy. They can actualize their self-development, and you can even charge them, because right now we're charged a premium for shitty things like a plain t-shirt. This is the second-hand t-shirt I'm wearing, but a plain t-shirt of this, a plain t-shirt in Tanzania, it's not $2, $3. I'll buy it for like $3, $5. The same t-shirt that could be made here. So I'm like, okay, if you guys can charge me like premium for something that if I go to Target right now, I'll get for $2, $3 at a pack. Why doesn't that
Yeah.
company come and set up a factory here and charge us the premium? They'll be
Yeah.
profitable because I'm already paying
Yeah.
a premium for this. So, but are we creating this environment? Are we bringing things locally? Like, the boating, the boat example, that is a mismatch of knowledge. They're like, hey, why are we not thinking from like the ground up? And then you got to realize, oh no, when you walk around like Bagamoyo's old slave town in Tanzania, it shows you how the classes of education were set up. Africans were in the bottom, Indians in the middle, and then white people in the top. And this is how we were taught. So you do the labor, these guys do the admin, these guys like set up the tasks, right?
Yeah.
That hierarchy has not changed. So when you're in the bottom, you don't need a lot of like you don't need a lot of knowledge. You just need to you need to know the bare minimum. But we
Yeah.
need to flip the script and say no, no, no. We need to invest in the infrastructural conditions that allow our people to attain as many knowledge. Like the problem should be you didn't apply yourself. It should not be it's not available because like now this it is coming back to what we were talking earlier on the podcast, like when we started. Are we ready to sacrifice like that? Because those are
Yeah.
the real problems that we need. We need it. We need the pool. We need the investments. We need money. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
We need to have access to funds and proper. But we need to know that we have the ability to invest on a population that can 10x and exponentially give you those returns. Africans, if well invested, well educated, well like if you create enough conditions for them, in less than 10 years, you can get your investment, your money's worth back tenfold. But are you willing to invest in this condition and take those L's early on until they see results? That's why I believe it's our responsibility. If we're going to partner with diasporas, they need to not any self improvement should come at the cost of you guys yourselves. Because if you don't innovate ourselves, we will not take care of it. But if we build it ourselves and sweat for it, we'll protect it. Because, like we
Yeah.
said earlier, if you can protect what you're building, you won't take care of it.
Yeah.
And
This is
remember,
absolutely true.
food is so cheap here. So the incentives for staying lazy is at all-time high. So if you're expecting people to do it because they have this passion inside them, you're very surprised because the motivation for a lot of humans is survival. And if I can survive at less than $1, I don't need 10,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need to create that. Your knowledge and what you know is to inspire people to see past the dollar and see 10,
Yeah.
100, 10 grand,
Yeah.
20,000. Not to be monetary driven, but to see, hey, conditions are available for you to participate and get that incentive.
Yeah.
Mm,
With the diaspora, so my thing with the diaspora is I kind of feel maybe I misinterpreted wrong, but I'm just going to try to see from basically from the knowledge that you've given me now. I don't see the diaspora and Africans as two separate things. I don't want to see that. I don't have that approach. I don't want to have
mm.
that approach. My approach
No,
is everyone that's melanated with Afrocentric features with the phenotypical sort of body structure is from this land. And if we are from this land, how can we communicate and synergize and unionize together to be able to build this thing back up to the greatness that it was when the Timbuktu era was around, when the Benin Empire and the Great Wall of Benin was the infrastructure was being built, when the Zimbabwean trade routes were being built, when
mm,
you look at old ancient Kemet and what was being built there, the Kushites and so on. So how do we how do we remove this? You are this categorization, right? Because when I look at
Fair enough.
Europe, yeah, because when I look at Europe, yes, they acknowledge that there's different cultural upbringings within the confines of Europe, but at the same time, they're still able to facilitate trade amongst each other and still able to acknowledge each other's cultural differences while still being able to push forward in terms of innovation and investment. So
Yeah.
how do we as a diaspora with the Africans, how do we stop? How do we all come together and say, hey, we're all African, first of all? Yes, some of us are taken from our homes and we don't really know our lineage, right? But how do we
Mm.
remove that barrier? Because I think that's a huge again division, invisible dividing factor that when we speak even. We try to say they are them and this is us and it needs to be solved by Africans. But what does that mean for me? Am I not African?
Hey bro, I'm just trolling is something that will not just challenge your perspective, but also touch your heart and soul. It's a book that defies convention, blending art and literature into a thought-provoking masterpiece. A reflective piece of provocative art that tackles societal constructs from angles you've never considered. Hey bro, I'm just trolling delves into the very essence of our existence. It questions the technology that surrounds us, challenges our notions of beauty, stares unflinchingly into the eyes of death, and questions the boundaries of freedom. It scrutinized the educational system that molds our very future. This book is a journey, an exploration of shared human experience, and it's a work of art that refuses to be confined by tradition. It's a canvas painted with words, a melody of thought, and a testament to the power of creativity in a world dominated by algorithms and data. Visit moonboycapitalventures.com and get your hands on Hey Bro, I'm Just Trolling today. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Now let's jump back into the show.
I hear you, bro. And I think, man, this should be off podcast because they'll hear us. But no, I'm joking. Because radically speaking, we need to be able to die for it. We need to be able to sacrifice because we might not see it, but can we create it so our children's children and their children can actualize this? But then it comes to this question: we're in conflict with globalization because everything about like I'll give you a good example: land ownership in Tanzania. I can't own land; I can only lease it for
Mm-hmm.
100 years. So
Yeah,
now you coming from a place where you're taught you can own every your property is private, no one can come in there. I'm not from that culture. I'm not from that ideology. Kenya has that. You go to Uganda, it's not like that. Go to South Africa, it's different. You go to see now, Africa's been divided so much to a point it's easy to divide and conquer us. So the only way we can see the diaspora the same as Africa, the diaspora needs to come together, and Africans
yeah,
need to come together. Now, most people have tried this, have died quickly than they could even speak about this to fruition. So you're talking about black nationalism. Now, black
yeah,
nationalism, I think that ideology died in the 60s with colonialism. You see? So when colonialism ended, they were very careful how they ended it. See, the constitution of most African countries was brought to them. Even the way we do our parliament, the way we do our decision making, the way we have our laws, the way we even practice law. It's not natively African. It's very much influenced by principles of like European standards, British colonial structures of law. Now, these are things that from them like structurally, okay, so constitutionally limit us from uniting to that point where we can see the difference. And now the idea of difference comes out of not a new world order, but more like an impact unionization of how much like capitalistic values and bases can you have? You have a nation like Europe, like America, who has 200 bases all over the world. This is strategically placed to protect their influence. China is doing this, is investing in a lot of infrastructural development, not because for Tanzania, it's for China. China is communism. Communism, the essence of it is China first, I'm second. Now, if black nationalism comes first and then everything else second, then you're the same way America's. The land of freedom comes first, Second Amendment second, and then America's third. You know, these they sound silly things, but they are the fabrics of what drives your communities. Now,
Yeah.
Africans, we don't have this. We have me first, and then what is next. So
Yeah.
once we change these ideologies and have abundance of things, but then I'm sorry to say this, we might not see this in our lifetime. We might be the guys that maybe set up this structure, but then the way the world is going and the way the power concentration lies, we are not majority like influential people. We don't sway the world with our decisions because we don't have that
Yeah.
leverage. So the only way we can see Africa as one is we need to have leverage. We need to have strategic leverage at all points across the continent that can even accommodate you guys coming back and setting up base here. But due to the factors I've mentioned earlier, they will stop you guys so much to a point where it's even easy to brainwash a lot of Americans to not think as Africa as this. They think Africa as this jungle, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and not a prosperity opportunity. So
Yeah.
maybe a catastrophic incident needs to happen for us to kind of come together, and then you have to choose sides. But then, even then, Africa is still riddled with tribalism. It's still riddled with like imperialism to a point
So
where we will
that's again,
glorify.
but that's again where I see the diaspora as a leverage point again for the tribalism aspect. Where, like for me, in my academy, I had an issue or a situation. It wasn't really an issue where people were trying to get tribal, and I immediately said, "Hey,
Mm,
we're all from Kemet," and it completely stopped everything. You know, I was like, it's
yeah,
an education problem, right? So we all have to identify with us all being from that same land and working towards a common goal, which is to build this land up, right? And so this is what I try to restructure into my students' minds and thought processes, right? And eventually, another thing I want to build, which I didn't really touch upon, was I do want to build a Pan-African Web3 educate, oh no, I'm sorry, a Pan-African history academy, right? So that way
mm,
I can teach. Because again, a lot of people, a lot of Africans and Africans from the diaspora are not taught about history. Most of them don't even know about Mansa Musa. If you mention Mansa Musa to a lot of Africans, they don't even know what you're talking about. Actually, in Congo now, still to this day, there's Congolese people that think that King Leopold brought civilization to Africa.
yeah.
Oddly enough, where, where, but that's how funny it is, because they're so
But then, bro,
misinformed.
yeah, but then you gotta understand, people spend a lot of money to keep these ideas alive because they know how
Yeah,
much it benefits them. I see this when I'm in the city and I go to a coffee shop and I see how freely a white girl will come and sit on a bench and just lie down and read her book. It's almost
yeah,
inspirational, bro. Because I know even my friends, they'll never have the balls to be that free in public, even though this is
yeah,
their land, even though this is where they're from. But then it gets you to think like that is the type of mindset we need to instill in our children and the next generation to have ownership to that capacity. Now
yeah,
we're rooted in a very different ideology of upbringing because we come from this survival, like from slavery and all these things. So
yeah,
I one thing I feel like we can build towards, we need leverage, bro. I keep saying this all the time because it's so evident more than ever. Now, I think if, for example, Tanzania, we have an history of the first human findings, the Zinjotropus, the first bones of the first man. We can use this to our advantage. We can use this history and this heritage place to be like, hey, come and see the first man who was born. Is he black? Yes, he's African. This is where he's from. This is where you're from. Start your lineage here and go outwards and conquer the world. But know you have a home. not a metaphoric home. Now, this have you ever heard of the concept of network states?
Yeah, yeah, of course, network states.
Yeah. Now, this concept is, I think, don't do a Web3 diaspora thingy. Do a Web3 network state that leverage this. That's where the value is at. And if you have people who can put money down, you get a piece of land in Africa, in any country. They will let you buy land, and then you set a base there. You build infrastructure things, and then you build a network state, have legal passports, allow people to do things like I'll share some resources with you if you want, and explore this network state as the future of uniting Africans from diaspora to to the continent, and then leverage tourism. You leverage investing in like the blue economy and the green economy in Africa, energy economy, data centers, technology economy, because that's what is really much needed. And once we leverage these four things and use the umbrella of network states, you can have a lot of Africans now coming in and leveraging this network state. And once you got them there, you start teaching them history and you invest in brainwashing them. I notice I used brainwashing deliberately because black people are the most influential people in the world, but they're influencing the wrong things. You look at the world now, you look at how girls are dressed, you look at how men are acting, you look at rap music, you look at all the deteriorating moral decay in culture. I'm not saying rap music, we can agree, most of rap music today is actually trash. It's not good for our brains. It's crippling a lot of the youth to a point where it was not meant to be like that. It was meant to empower you. And you look at the fundamental, the godfathers of this genres, fashion, trendy. I see things. I'm like, why do we have to be so demonic, bro? The world can
Yeah,
have. The world is such a colorful place, but it cannot only be rainbows and LGBTQ. We can use that
yeah,
rainbow to show other facet of life. Why are we only
but
focused on one aspect of it? I think we are
w-
using our influence for monetary gain and very shallow influence that if we use the same thing and brainwash our people to see opportunities, to see incentives, I'm not saying we don't, but I'm saying the same energy we use to deteriorate our communities, we can use the same energy to build them. But this needs to be structurally invested upon. That's why I think we are wishful thinkers in a sense of like we believe like good things will just happen because we're good. Good things
yeah,
happen
but this
because
is
we intentionally will them.
like no, you're absolutely right, and actually, I do believe that it's part of the issue is religion. It's a very very controversial take, but I feel like religion is another thing that I see that holds us back because the first thing we want to do when we see a problem is pray, right? Instead of solve the actual problem. So
Yeah,
yeah, you can
but
pray, but if you don't solve the problem, and if you just pray and act like a miracle is going to come from the sky, then nothing is going to get done. You need to then take action on that prayer. It's fine to pray, but are you taking action then off that prayer? Or are you just praying and hoping for a miracle?
True, true. But then you gotta also understand religion is like that because of false uh people trying to sell hope. Hope is the most expensive commodity and the most sought out commodity in the world. So religion in that aspect of selling false hope is where it's dangerous. But in the same argument, I think religion holds moral values for community to a point where it's actually very powerful. If you read any scripture, if you're actually a believer in any scripture, that's not what religion is about. Like it will tell you everything that me and you would agree on. I will tell you scripture has it in detail and how to perfect it. But none of us actually spend time to understand it. We're all sold version of it that will
Yeah.
inspire us to give offerings. But by
But
itself,
but
it's not a
who
dangerous
oh,
idea.
but 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 who materialized this version of this belief system that we have currently on the continent? Because Muslim culture, with the Quran and everything, that is something that the Arab invasion brought in the 7th century. If you look at Christianity, that is something that was used as a leverage point to brainwash children in Africa as the missionaries came so they could colonize the minds, right? Or their
Mm.
version, at least, of Christianity, right? So when I look at these aspects, when you look through history, Was it part of the plan? If you did read King Leopold's letter, where he literally told the missionaries the entire plan of how they were going to colonize the Congo and what they were going to do, how they were going to attack it. This is during the Berlin conference. He
Yeah,
states in there how they were going to leverage religion, their Christianity that they brought, because we had our own religion before, right? And I'm not
yeah,
saying that, look, everyone has their own belief systems. What I'm saying is, um, I think that this is a very controversial take, right? We're getting into a very controversial area, right? But I do believe that if you're a high conscious individual, you don't necessarily need a belief system that was built by someone else to follow to know that what is good and what is bad. If you're a really high conscious individual, you don't necessarily need it. I'm not saying that it can't help you as a guidelining principle, but I'm saying that if we understand that it was something that was someone else was created to colonize the minds of individuals, right? Then we
yeah.
then
I
have to
feel
then take a step back and look at it. We have to look at that because that's a very very important point.
no, no,
You
no,
know?
100%, 100%. So
Yeah.
if you,
Yeah.
on the same topic, if you go back, religious has been controversial even before our times, even the Roman Empire time. How they use religion to
Yeah.
pilgrimage and all these things and vandalizing
Yeah.
worlds, dominating places. So it's not new to for Africa. And then you go to like like 1800, the age of like the Renaissance and philosophy from philosopher like Nietzsche, Karl Marx, and these guys how they talk about ideologies of religion on to this day and the morality as itself. You realize the fundamental reason of brainwashing people is not really religion. Religion is a tool like any other tool we can use for both things. So the divide even in the Christian, like in Christianity, to have different denominations stemmed from this thing that you just mentioned, and it goes far beyond a lot of things. So it by itself does not really affect. It's a tool like the same way you can use politics. Now it's
Yeah.
powerful because it leverages hope. That's why we got to where we
Yes.
are. So I would say um, morality at the expense of selling hope, it's what is deteriorating a lot of like stagnation in countries that rely mostly like, hey, I'm a pray and will that hope will come to my head. Coming back to what I said,
Yeah.
because of the basic need for a lot of humans is survival. If survival is met at the lowest quality, no other need is really necessary for any human being. I believe this as a fundamental truth because I see it a lot in where I'm from. And I think even you when you trace it back, you will find if I wanted to if I were presented with two choices to survive or to thrive, most people would choose survival over thriving. I know this
Why?
might you might know because thriving, if I was to because survival beats everything every other instinct. I'm trying to find a good example, but nothing is coming in front of my head right now quickly. Because if you can if you can feed someone just enough to come back and keep him on that little loop, if the conditions are not too harsh, they will stay there. Now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, Africans were blessed and cursed in that aspect, in the sense that we can survive for very little. Like it does not take a lot for an African to survive. So when that essential human basic instinctual need is met, you don't need a lot of things. If I was in the Scandinavian Alps and the only thing I need is a mountain goat, and winter is coming is around the corner, I need shelter. I need a lot of things to survive. You see,
Yeah.
but if I'm born a little down near the equator, and the only thing I need is basically like fruits. Bro, there's parts in my country where like fruits just grow on their own,
Yeah.
like throughout the
Yeah.
year that you cannot finish. Like there's no way on earth you can finish them. So like this is something that we don't put into account as
Yeah.
when you combine this with religion, it's even more dangerous because
Yeah.
if this person can just eat two avocados and take some groundnuts, That's heavy protein, bro. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I'm solid. I can get like a balanced diet for zero dime.
Yeah.
This is something we don't like think of as like, hey, maybe that also is part of why we're still a bit behind, because we only look at the bad things. We don't look at the advantages that people prey on us. Because then, if someone is gonna colonize you, you gotta understand now they're coming from, they've colonized their land, they've done a lot of things to get there. Now we're surviving differently. The same
Yeah.
way, like someone living in the Sahara knows where to find water. If I was dropped in the Sahara, I'll be lost. But if someone who grew up there, they'll know where water is at. They'll know things around. They'll know the environment. I cannot conquer the Sahara, you know, but I can
Yeah.
conquer the savannah because I know it better. But then if I've if I can build tools over time, I've been surviving. This is DNA surviving over time. I'm not saying like people from like the like I'll say lack of a better word, white people are superior to us. I'm saying conditions that you grow up in make your survival instinctual different from other people. you know Even
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
grow is different. So now we are very much unaware, or we do not put this into account when we think about our liberation, because we don't think it's important or as necessary. We need to know that's another battle we're fighting. Like, hey,
Yes.
we look at, hey, I'm advantages because I can my basic need of survival I met, but I need other basic needs. So you find this person who's been surviving in harsh environments, has been conquering these things. When they meet you in the field, it's like going to a soccer game. You don't need to
Yeah.
practice because the football is around you. You think you're good, but you meet a team that has been working together for years. They're literally in sync with one another because they had to survive like that. You're a Barcelona team. You're performing at the Champions League. Now you're meeting a team in Tanzania that's been playing just like eight aside, and you're put in
Yeah.
a Champions League final. You're not gonna survive that game, not because you're not good
Yeah.
football players, but the conditions you had to play at were not that intense. Now you're meeting
Yeah.
someone who's been playing at a high intensity level, at a condition where now you brought them, they have food for free, they have everything at their disposal, and you want to fight them, bro, I will annihilate you like that.
Yeah.
Not because you're not strong, it's because I am from conditions that made me way more of a monster than you. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to fight me with the same battle, you need to be the same monster as me. Now, Africans, we are naturally not like that. So
Yeah.
the survival mechanism is easy. So they're like, I can't kill all these guys. Let me brainwash them with religion. But because they don't understand the fundamental, because we've been praying before, we have our own way of doing it
Yeah.
with action. Like if you look at ritualistic prayers, they have acted into them. So why even Christian prayer, you get on your knees, you do things, there's ritualistic things to them. But the problem comes when somebody who's clever than you, who had to survive conditions more than you did, they will take advantage of you because
Yes.
instinctually we want to survive, and we have the same capacity, but your capacity grow to the nature of fear that you're exposed to. If you're exposed to fear over and over, your natural dopamine grows and you become more susceptible to that fear. You can conquer it more. But if your fear level is not that much, I can scare you a little bit, and to you, since you've never been scared before, you'll be terrified. But someone
Yeah.
who's been scared for a lot of things, whenever you scare them, they're like, yeah, no, man, this is just, you can't shake them as much. Now, are we putting this into account when we talk about these things? So I do agree with you, but I think sometimes we play that card without playing other cards that actually are more dangerous to us than what
Yeah.
actually these people throw at us. So when we can um, have put ourselves in conditions that make us, I think what Africans miss is the quality of life they should thrive for. We need to have our own utopia way of quality, and then build it so we can also not only build it and protect it. At what
Yeah.
length are we willing to go for this? Because then it
Yeah.
might not happen in our generation. The next generation, naturally, with even in their DNA, it will be implanted in them. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my
I
take on that. Might be a bit
I
controversial, but
Picture this. You're an inspiring computer science major. You have the 4-year degree program finished. You get out start looking for work within the job market, and then you realize that there's no jobs. What you end up doing is you become an Uber driver because you realize that that piece of paper that you were chasing was actually worthless. The reality is, most institutions are behind. HeliCode solves this problem by teaching you on-demand Web3 tech skills in a short duration of time and links you to employment with our job placement services. And the best part is, you can work remotely. Find out more at helicode.xyz. And as always, see you, Space Cowboy.
No, I agree with everything that you said, and I truly believe that education is, again, the pain point. Again, it always goes back to
Mm.
education. So what we're building, what others are going to build, is going to help to facilitate that education. And again, I keep referring back to what I said previously, is the technology itself bypasses the institutions and the government, which is, for me, a great point, because now, even when you look at it with my school that we've built, right, with Helicode Academy, I could have
Yeah,
built a local school. I would have spent a more upfront cost. I would have then only been have access to then people within the local area to teach this Web3 technology. But instead, what I chose to do is then put it on the internet, because I think about 70% of Africa has internet, right? Internet connectivity, something like that. So
at what cost though?
yeah, at what cost? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Again, it goes
Yeah,
back to that cost. But my point is, I look at, again, the right now needs. The need is
no,
to unbrainwash the brainwashing and let people also know what is happening, right? Why can't you get ahead? It's not because you're not working hard enough. It's because the thing in which you're trading your time for is wrong, right?
yeah,
It's broken. So that is the problem. So once you can get everyone to uniformly agree upon that that is the issue, we can then conclude and come up with a solution that maybe the free market has already presented, in this case Bitcoin, as a valuable solution to move forward, to trade your time for that, at least, because at least that preserves your purchasing power, and actually your time is actually being rewarded instead of stolen from you, right?
yeah,
So I,
yeah,
I, I think this is a very, very huge educational point, because again, there's way more economic productivity here than there is over there. So if we can figure out a way to enlighten enough people to understand that, hey, you can work for something that's a different vehicle that at least slows the rate of the inflation down for you a lot, in this case USDT, which is again a short-term solution. But at least a longer term solution would be Bitcoin, right? So give them those two alternatives and let them not fear the technology, but how to embrace it and coincide and synergize with the technology. So I think that's what's missing too as well. And you're right, we come from this abundance mindset, because at the end of the day, we know, well, I can always go back home and grow food in my yard and chill, right?
yeah.
So
But
with my solar panels and et cetera, and my borehole and et cetera, or rainwater and et cetera.
I would challenge you on two things there, because
Tell me.
I really love for you for this what you're doing to come to life, and even help out with it whatever way I can. I think you've done the most important part, which is also the hardest part. I would say setting up the school online, and then with the digital world, I think you can easily scale this. But I also challenge you to now set up a base. You need to set up on ground bases, because I think as much as Africa needs, yeah, we have the internet connects us, it makes it easy, but we need those physical infrastructures for knowledge. So like I would love for this to be a real school centers where you can put even sports, integrate sports in it, and other holistic approach to learning, and other value community, people meeting in real life. So then the when we get out of this world, we can meet in the digital world as well. So I would love for this to happen. This is a vision I have in my mind. uh God willing, if I as I like unlock more wealth in my life, I want to set up physical infrastructures that share this knowledge and inspire the people,
Yes.
and people know like I have a center I can go to and do that. And I feel like you know this, and you're on the path for this. We should set up this, bro. This is very much
Yeah.
needed. Like on ground activity, on ground use cases that people can now use technology for, from the infrastructure for blockchain to like the use case. Now, I don't agree that Bitcoin is the answer, because maybe that train has passed us because of the one sole reason. on ramping is still one of the most expensive things for a lot of Africans. Like buying any digital asset is really expensive, at least where I'm from, because I have to exchange my currency to a dollar, then buy crypto, and I'm paying premium for it. You know, of if it goes up, I'll make money, but if it goes down, as we both know, it's very volatile. The price point I have, I'm not gonna buy 65. It hit 65 today. There's no way I have 65 grand to own a Bitcoin. And even if I did and it went down, I lost it all. You know, so we're thinking this. I know Bitcoin as a fund. I think Bitcoin leveraging Bitcoin as a foundation to create digital wealth is very important. But setting up infrastructure for us to own our own stables that are backed with real securities, you know, and changing value and perception of value is what the opportunity of blockchain presents, in my opinion, that wealth creation for a lot of Africans that is stable, that is a shield against inflation, is shield against fluctuation and volatility. It's having this local driven stable asset that we can use for trade that brings because I think the major reason that a lot of people don't talk about financial inclusion, and this is part of my work and what I do with Chatter Fisher and Netherlabs. So I have a lab in Tanzania that we build digital solutions. And our idea is when we're not financially included, not because the infrastructure financial inclusion is not there, because it's very expensive for Africans to be financially included in the current models. It's not that the infrastructure is not there. The infrastructure is expensive for you to have to be participating in the digital economy. Blockchain brings this cost down because now instead of having a server in America or somewhere else, you can have it in your neighborhood. You can create this infrastructure locally. Now, it's a far fetched in Africa because we don't even own our own. We don't even provide our own internet. But why are we not setting up satellites, like setting up infrastructure for connectivity at that level? Now, governments in Africa needs to invest in this infrastructure base, and when we can have, like, say tomorrow, like I don't rely on a fiber cable from Johannesburg or from Europe to have a Zoom call.
Yeah.
That is real connectivity. Like, no, I know my connection comes there. If it goes down, we're still like up. So then we can now start using Bitcoin as a real exchange of value because we know the collective, like, consensus mechanism of validating each other's transaction is locally here. This is what will bring ownership and participation to the digital economy. That's why I think Bitcoin is past us because the entry point owning a Bitcoin, it was 2008. I mean, 2000, even 2000 and what, and 10?
Nine.
When it was
Nine.
2009, when we had like, when it was $100, $10, that was when we could have used it. But now at 65,000, it's a shield for inflation for bigger corporations. That's why you see this big financial institution buying it, not denying its value, not discrediting it, but mostly emphasizing on, like, okay, we've seen this technology can work. What infrastructure investments do we need to do to have local currencies, local community currency, stable assets for settlements? Like, this is the solutions we need to start exploring. Like, payments should not be, like, we should not have fees for payment in Africa that are ridiculous. Why? We need infrastructure to introduce new assets of trading that more people can participate in. And blockchain provides this space and this technology. But we cannot use Kosama, we cannot use Polkadot, we cannot use Ethereum or Bitcoin chain or layer one or layer two. We need layer zeros made from on ground here. Like, we need our own chains, we need our own blockchains, our own validator networks, our own, like, young people, like your code academy. What I would love for, like, every student that is done from your academy to think, can I be a validator? Can I have, like, can I be a peer on a peer-to-peer transaction? Can I be part of a network that says validates transactions so then they become cheaper? Are we thinking of blockchain at this infrastructure level? And I think a lot of Africans are not. We're thinking of blockchain as um, an asset class we can own to have alternative value, but we're not looking at blockchain as, like, hey, what infrastructure mechanism can we put in place that we own a true decentralized economy that leverages the modern economy that we have, that is still dependent to bigger firms, but then for small payments under $100, $200 in Africa should be free. Credits
Yeah.
like under $100 should have no interest.
Yeah.
The interest should be your
Yeah.
social reputation. So
Yeah. It's very, yeah. It's such a nuanced topic, you know. So here's my thinking. Yeah, I think that a lot of people, where they get a lot Bitcoin wrong is that they perceive Bitcoin in the sense of what is its dollar value, right? What it's traded against
yeah,
and its dollar value. But they don't look at Bitcoin from the perspective of Bitcoin is money. Now, when you look at Bitcoin as money, you then start to perceive it as something different, because as we know, the currencies are crashing everywhere globally. The idea is that eventually, yeah, we're trading something against for one thing for another, right? But if you look at it from just the perspective of you have skills that are adequate for the marketplace, what you want in return, the medium of exchange that you uniformly agree upon is, let's say, Bitcoin in this instance. If you could use that Bitcoin as a savings vehicle for yourself so you don't have to even off ramp, that's how hyper Bitcoinization happens, right?
yeah.
So I think a lot of people aren't looking at it from that perspective. I think people are looking at it more so from the perspective of, hey, it's too high of a price in fiat denominated value, which means absolutely nothing in the next 15 years because we know it's going to crash. We know it's inevitable, right? We're in the death spiral right now. So if we know we're in a debt spiral right now, and every country is in the debt spiral that has been accumulating debt over the course of time, then we know that there's going to have to be an alternative means of uniformly agreed upon medium of exchange that we should use and leverage. Now, what will happen
But
when
then,
when the fiat is worthless? Well, we're not going to
so
be denominating things in fiat.
no, no, no. I'll say I will challenge you on that because I think the trajectory for that will be stables then, you know, like because you
Yeah,
gotta understand that that is not a problem of infrastructure, but more of user interface. The UI
yeah,
UX is the bigger problem. So most people are comfortable trading one like whole digits, not 0.001 equivalent. So
yeah,
if I own 0.001, me and you know this, but then a normal user like they want the least friction ever, and I think this is where we miss the potential of blockchain because we want that is hyper bitcoinization is ideological, it's not practical, you know. It is practical but in a sense of the user does not care about the infrastructure. The user, me and you, just want I want payment as a settlement. Simple as that. How I receive it, it needs to be very simple. Now, if
yeah,
we don't, the smartest people realize this and they know, oh, I'm just trading ones and zeros. So if I just flip it and give you what you want to see and equate to it, it doesn't really matter. Like you look at
yeah,
TikTok, I don't know if you're on TikTok, you see the gifts on TikTok, people send each other gifts, cheating, little things like this. Maybe to wrap it up, just to bring the topic on, because I do agree with what you're saying 100%.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
really
Because my camera's
believe
out
in
too, so
the fundamental. Yeah, I believe in the fundamental ideology that you hold, my brother, and I really would have. I'm so excited for the journey you have ahead of you. Um, I would say for us, if we can find a store value that reflects the stability we already have, on board people as soon as possible, start seeing use case, because that's what the value that's where the value is at. um I think we can leverage what Bitcoin has done and take it away from the denomination value of it being like pegged to the US dollar and seeing it as like, you know, the equivalent of, but use
yeah,
it, what can it actually solve as a problem that we need? Which for me is more people participating in the economy and adding value to the skills they have in a cheaper, affordable way that appreciates instead of depreciate over time. And I think this is
yeah,
what value is, something that increases as you participate and incentivize you for always growing, because life is about growth. So the user interface and our job as builders is to make the journey as smooth as possible and as valuable as possible for users. with less barriers and less limitation. So we empower people. Technology should innovate and empower people and accommodate more people rather than a small faction of group of people because of an idea they want you to believe in. No, it's about what is the vision of the world that we want to be in. Is it something that's accommodating a few, or is it abundant and accommodates everybody and allows everybody to thrive, not only in things they do, but in things they can be at, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Okay.
that's the future I'm excited for.
Yeah, man. Where can people find you on the internet, man?
Uh, I'll plug my company, man. Go to Chata Fisher, CHATASISHA. So Fisher
Okay.
or
You'll
Neda
leave me the
Labs.
links. You'll
Yeah,
give me the links
I'll
too
send
as
you the
well,
I'll
so
send you the
I can
name.
put them in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna, but everything is at NEDA Labs, National Electronic Digital Assets, National Electronic Digital Asset Laboratory. You search that on Twitter, you'll find us. X now, you'll find us there. You'll get to know everything about what we're building, and would love more people to come in our community. And this is my first ever podcast about Web3. I've never done this before, so it's really really dope, man. I had a great time, and yeah, man. I think
Yeah.
we talked about everything, so that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Um,
make this probably into a two-part series, man, honestly. But I just really enjoy your time and your knowledge too, as well. It's great, and also your level of articulation. Even though, we are using the colonizers' language. I mean, it's the language that won in the free market, I guess. So that's another problem
yeah,
that we have. We could get into to talk about is the fact that we don't have a uniformly agreed upon language within Africa to communicate, really. Whereas Europe, they use English.
Swahili,
You know,
Swahili is the one.
it should be.
Trust me, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
We just need we need to get super rich and only speak in Swahili, so people have to translate. That's the goal.
Exactly.
When I'm president of Tanzania, I'm just speaking Swahili, and I have a translator. Yeah, hey, and
Yeah.
then blow them in the middle of the speech that speaks a random word in English. Oh, you can speak English. I'm like, yeah, but I chose to speak Swahili. So
Absolutely.
that's the. I wish more people like you could speak about these topics in a loving way and encourage and inspire the young people and the older people in the space to be like, hey, we're in this to build together and bring everybody to have this conversation first, because it starts with a conversation, and then once the dialogue is had, then we can propose solution, because there's no one solution fits it all. It's many approaches, and then people can have an option of like, hey, the conditions are set, come join us, bring your ideas, bring your personality, bring you, because we need everybody's listening, me and you, the rest of the world, we need each other to build this thing, you know,
Yeah.
and then we can
Absolutely.
protect it.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
absolutely. My brother, Victor, thank you so much, man.
Hey,
Mohagachi. Mohagachi.
yeah.
Yes,
Muhagachi means
sir.
builder. It's a Korean word in Africa that means builder. So
Oh, that's beautiful, bro.
it's my grandfather's name. I'm happy to carry it. I'm happy to champion it. And man, bro, thank you so much for inviting me to your space. I'm definitely I feel like this was an outer world experience. So definitely
Yeah.
you're a moon
Yeah.
baby. So thank you for sharing the space with me.
Thank you so much, man. And this concludes this episode of the Mooncast, and peace. Take care, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you.